Imagine a single whisper saving a life. A trembling voice in the dark, coming from someone the world has forgotten. "Don't drive. Your wife cut the brakes," she said. One simple warning could have meant the difference between life and death. But he didn't know her. He didn't trust her. And yet, that voice would shatter everything he thought he knew: his marriage, his empire, his entire world. Tonight, you will see how a homeless girl changed the fate of one of the richest men alive. And what happened next will leave you speechless. The night was heavy with silence, broken only by the soft hum of city lights against the desert horizon. For most, it was just another evening, but for Karim al-Mansour, a man whose name commanded power in boardrooms and banks across the Middle East, this night would carve itself into his soul forever. Born into wealth and rising into greater fortune, Karim had built an empire on oil, trade, and daring investments that others were too cautious to make. To the world, he was untouchable, an Arab millionaire whose cars, palaces, and influence painted a picture of success beyond measure. Yet beneath the tailored suits and polished smile, Karim's heart had grown blind to the unseen corners of life. He had forgotten what hunger looked like, what despair smelled like, what survival truly meant. Until a trembling voice stopped him cold. He had just left a glittering party hosted in his honor at one of Dubai's most extravagant hotels. The chandeliers, the champagne, the laughter, it had all been perfect. His wife, Layla, had dazzled in emerald silk, her beauty envied by every woman in the room. She clung to his arm, her smile poised, her voice honeyed. She was everything society told him a man of his stature deserved. Yet when the night ended and the guests disappeared into shadows, Karim felt the faint chill of emptiness as he handed his wife the car keys. But before she could open the door, a figure stepped from the alley. She was small, frail, and cloaked in rags that had once been clothing, but now hung like torn memories around her shoulders. Her skin was dark, her hair tangled, her eyes hollow with the ache of too many sleepless nights. A homeless girl, unseen, unwanted, discarded by the very city that glittered with wealth. "Sir?" Her voice cracked, barely above a whisper, yet cutting through the hum of the night like a blade. "Please, don't drive." Karim frowned, his first instinct anger. Who was she to speak to him, to interrupt his evening with her trembling words? His guards moved forward, ready to drag her away, but something in her tone stopped him. It wasn't begging. It wasn't madness. It was warning. Her hands shook as she pointed to the car. "Your wife. She cut the brakes." For a moment, time itself froze. The words hung in the air like smoke, suffocating, unbelievable. Karim turned slowly to his wife. Layla's face remained frozen in perfect calm, yet her eyes flickered with something sharp, something cold. He felt a rush of heat in his veins. "What nonsense is this?" he snapped, trying to shake off the absurdity. But inside, a splinter of doubt pierced his chest. Why would a homeless girl know his name, know his danger? The girl's voice broke again, desperate now. "I saw her. I was hiding behind the hotel. She thought no one was watching. She took a knife. She cut the lines under the car. If you drive tonight, you will not live to see the morning." His guards laughed bitterly, waving her away. "She's mad, sir. Ignore her." But Karim's eyes never left the girl. Her face was etched with truth. Not the kind that can be invented, but the kind that carries the weight of someone who has nothing left to lose. His wife's hand slipped around his arm. "Karim," she whispered, her voice low and steady. "Don't listen. She's filthy. She's nothing. Let's go home." But those words, "she's nothing," clanged in his mind like an alarm. For the first time in years, Karim's heart wrestled with uncertainty. He had built his empire on instincts, on the ability to read lies, to sense deception in a room, full of smiles. And now, as he stared into the tear-streaked face of the homeless girl, his instincts screamed that she was telling the truth. The memory of his childhood crept into his mind, years before wealth, when his father had taught him that sometimes the smallest voice carries the greatest truth. But now, to think his wife, the woman he had trusted, adorned and showcased before the world, could be plotting his death, it was too unthinkable, too dangerous to even believe. Still, his pulse hammered as he looked back at the car. The black luxury machine gleamed under the hotel lights, perfect, untouched. And yet, hidden beneath its metal, there could be death waiting. The homeless girl's voice broke again, softer now, almost pleading. "I have no reason to lie. They don't see me. But I saw her. Please, don't drive." Every eye in the parking lot was on Kareem now. Guests leaving the hotel had begun to whisper. His guards shifted uncomfortably. His wife's nails dug into his arm. And in that charged silence, Kareem faced a choice that would change everything. Part of him wanted to dismiss the girl, to brush her off as another shadow in the night. After all, what could a homeless beggar possibly know about his life? But another part, the part buried deep under pride and arrogance, trembled at her words. Because if she was right, if his wife had truly cut the brakes, then stepping into that car would not only end his empire, but his life. Kareem drew a long breath, his gaze darting between the girl and his wife. The girl's eyes shimmered with desperation, with truth carved by suffering. His wife's eyes, however, burned with a calm, too controlled, too rehearsed. And for the first time in years, Kareem felt the ground beneath his power begin to crack. Kareem's chest rose and fell, with a tension he had not felt in years. The silence around him grew heavier, as if the city itself held its breath, waiting to see his choice. His wife's hand clung to him, firm and almost commanding. The homeless girl's trembling figure stood only a few steps away, her words echoing. Still, "Don't drive." She cut the brakes. He cleared his throat, his voice low but sharp. "Open the hood," he ordered one of his guards. The man hesitated. "Sir, this is unnecessary." Now. The tone left no room for argument. The guard exchanged a glance with the others, then bent down, unlocking the car's hood. The metal lifted with a groan, revealing the hidden veins of the machine. Another guard crouched beneath with a flashlight. Seconds passed. The crowd of onlookers thickened, whispering behind hands, their eyes wide with curiosity. And then, it happened. "Sir," the guard's voice cracked, alarmed, "the brake line, it's been cut." A wave of gasps rippled through the parking lot. Kareem's blood turned cold. He staggered back a step, his gaze locked on the gleaming car that could have become his coffin. The girl's warning was true. He turned slowly toward his wife. Layla's face was pale, her lips pressed tightly together, her eyes flickering with restrained fury. But she did not speak. She only stared back at him, as if daring him to confront the truth. Kareem's chest tightened. Betrayal was not new to him. He had seen it in business partners, in rivals, in supposed friends. But from his own wife, the woman he had once looked at with admiration, whom he had placed at the center of his world, the ache pierced deeper than any blade. His guards surrounded Layla instantly. "Should we take her away, sir?" Kareem raised his hand. "No," he said, his voice low and thunderous. His eyes never left her face. "She will speak. Here. Now." The crowd had fallen into an uneasy silence, caught between fear and fascination. All eyes were on her. Layla straightened her shoulders, her composure that of a queen, even as her lies unraveled before her. "Why?" Kareem's voice shook, not with weakness, but with a fury he fought to contain. Why would you do this? She tilted her chin upward, her emerald earrings catching the glow of the hotel lights. Because you were never mine, Kareem, she said softly, almost serenely. Your empire, your wealth, your love, it was all for yourself. You gave me a palace, yes, but never a home. You gave me jewels, but never your heart. And now, I am done being a decoration in your golden cage. Her words cut deep, but not as deep as the act she had tried to commit. The homeless girl lowered, her gaze, tears spilling silently. She had spoken truth, but now she heard venom she could hardly believe a wife could unleash. Kareem's fists clenched. And so, your answer was to kill me? Yes, she said, calm as ice. With you gone, everything would have been mine. The estates, the accounts, the life I deserve. You never imagined I was capable, did you? You never imagined I could be more than your shadow. Gasps filled the air again. Even hardened men shifted uneasily at her confession. She had spoken the words without shame, without fear. Kareem's eyes burned. He turned toward the homeless girl once more. She stood, shivering in the night air, her frail body almost swallowed by the shadows, yet her eyes glowed with a fragile strength. If not for her, he would already be dead. If not for her, his wife's betrayal would have been buried beneath twisted metal and flames. Who are you? Kareem asked her softly. She hesitated. Her lips trembled. No one, sir. Just a girl the world forgot. No! Kareem said firmly, his voice carrying weight. You are the one who saved me. For the first time, the girl's eyes welled not with despair, but with something close to hope. No one had ever spoken of her as anything more than a burden, a shadow, a beggar. Yet in that moment, in front of the wealthiest man she had ever seen, she was something else, someone who mattered. But Kareem's gaze shifted back to his wife. He stepped closer, his voice low so that only she could hear, though the crowd strained to listen. You could have asked for freedom. You could have left. But you chose betrayal, Layla. And for that, there is no return. For the first time, her composure cracked. The calm mask slipped, revealing a flicker of fear in her eyes. Kareem turned to his guards. Take her away. She will not leave my sight until the truth of every detail is known. They obeyed instantly, seizing her arms. She did not struggle, but her cold smile lingered as she was led toward the waiting car of security. Her voice carried back like a whisper of poison. You think you've won, Kareem, but this is only the beginning. Her words sent a chill through him. He stood motionless, listening to the sound of the car door closing behind her, the engine roaring as it pulled away. And then, the silence returned. The whispers of the crowd grew into a murmur, then a storm of voices. But Kareem's focus narrowed to the homeless girl standing before him. She shifted nervously under his gaze, clutching the rags that hung around her thin frame. I should go, she whispered. But Kareem shook his head. No, you will not disappear back into the shadows, not tonight. The words surprised even him. For years he had overlooked the poor, the broken, the forgotten. Yet here she stood, the one who had seen what others did not, who had dared to speak truth even when no one would believe her. Without her, his empire would have crumbled in silence. Without her, he would be dead. Tell me your name, he demanded softly. Her lips parted. Amara. The name settled into his mind like a seed, small but powerful. He repeated it quietly, as if engraving it into memory. Amara! The crowd began to disperse, pulled away by the guards. The hotel staff busied themselves with murmurs, embarrassed by the spectacle. But Kareem remained still, the weight of the night pressing heavily on him. His wife's betrayal still burned in his chest, but beside that fire was another spark. The haunting realization that perhaps this broken girl carried a truth far greater than he had ever allowed himself to see. For the first time in years, Kareem Al-Mansour was unsure of what tomorrow would bring. All he knew was that the words of a homeless girl had not only saved his life, but shattered his world forever. And the echoes of her warning still lingered in his mind. Don't drive. The city had never felt so hollow to Kareem. Wealth, power, prestige. Everything he had built seemed suddenly fragile, like glass ready to shatter at a touch. The betrayal of his wife was not just an attack on his life. It was a wound carved into his soul. Yet standing in the shadows beside him was the one person no one would have imagined. A homeless girl, Amara, whose trembling voice had saved him. That night, Kareem did not return to his palace. Instead, he sat in the back of his guarded car, with Amara beside him, silent but alert. He studied her out of the corner of his eye, the torn clothes, the gaunt face, the eyes that carried both suffering and strength. She had nothing, yet she had given him everything, his life. When the car finally stopped at his private villa, Amara hesitated. "I don't belong here," she whispered. Kareem turned to her, his voice steady. "You belong where truth is honored. And tonight, you are the only one who carried it." The staff looked on in confusion as Kareem led her inside, a contrast so striking it unsettled every servant. A millionaire in silk robes, and beside him, a girl in rags. Yet Kareem paid no attention to their stares. For the first time, he saw clearly. Days passed. Investigations revealed every detail of Layla's plot, secret accounts, hidden plans, meetings with men who promised her power once Kareem was gone. Each revelation cut deeper, but none broke him completely, because each time he faltered, his gaze found Amara. She had no reason to care for him, no gain in warning him, and yet she had chosen truth. One evening, Kareem stood with her on the balcony overlooking the desert. The sun dipped low, painting the horizon in gold and crimson. He turned to her quietly. "Amara, you saved me from death. But more than that, you saved me from blindness. I had forgotten what truth looked like. I had forgotten what courage meant." Her eyes shimmered with tears, but she lowered her head. "I am no one, sir. Just a girl the world threw away." He shook his head slowly. "No, tonight, the world will remember you as the girl who stopped a millionaire from driving into death." The silence stretched between them, heavy but warm. For the first time in her life, Amara felt seen, not as a beggar, not as a burden, but as someone whose voice mattered. Kareem looked out into the fading sun, his voice low, almost to himself. "My wife tried to end me with betrayal, but you gave me back my life with nothing but truth, and that will never be forgotten." As night fell, one truth became clear. Empires rise and fall, fortunes are gained and lost, but the words of a forgotten girl had changed everything. And though the world would remember Kareem Al-Mansour as a millionaire, he would remember forever. The moment a trembling voice whispered into the night, "Don't drive." If this story moved you, make sure to hit that like button. It truly helps us keep bringing these powerful stories to life. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a story that will touch your heart and shake your soul. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the smallest voice can change the biggest life.